Kiryu here is the third iteration of Mechagodzilla and is what happens when a democratic, peace-loving country is constantly attacked, in which they are left with no other choice but to go to war. But with the limits regarding their conventional weaponry, they decided to reach out and break through the sky by grave robbing the original Godzilla and building a mech around the corpse.
Don't you think that's weirdly fucked up? I can't do it. But you could.
Looking at the mechanical design, Japan, especially the designer, outdid themselves, as unlike the previous iterations where the mechanical design was overly proportionate or dumbfounded, Kiryu here chose in favor of a sleek mechanized design that has won the test of time, as the design still looks good and advanced to this day and way better than the modern day designs, as portrayed through the fact that it facilitates in any diverse array of movements Kiryu is able to pull off. In doing so, let's first look at the head. The head is basically a literal mechanized iteration of the Big G's skull due to the necromancy explained before, resulting in the sleek build but with the abnormally large kawaii anime eyes. And the eyes possess a yellow lens and act as the camera of the mech, similar to the Gundam's head acting as the camera. But what country is Japan if they didn't reassure quality customer service, as Kiryu here is accompanied by additional eyes. There are your yellow eyes that possess a vertical stripe on the lens, providing for more analog and retro design, typical of a country that still uses stamps and fax machines. But doesn't Korea also use stamps and fax machines? Well, we were once the same country. I'm gonna get cancelled for that. And then there's your red eyes that, spoiler alert, appear when the soul of the original Gojira takes control and wreaks havoc, or in Eva terms, a berserk mode. But a caution to would-be buyers. The spikes at the center of the head can fall off, just like mine. So try to grab the pieces by the sides. Moving down, there is your snout that is long and can be opened to show the immense amount of details, starting off with the teeth that, rather than being mechanical in nature, happen to be organic thanks to Japanese necromancy, in which there is your extra stomping power to rip and tear anything from little mothers to little girls, portraying the misogynistic nature of Kiryu. And if you look closely at the center of the mouth, there are your dual maser cannons that are made for ranged combat and hit different on opposing kaijus, but seem to have less effects on the Big G. However, Kiryu is also equipped with two LEDs. The first is located within the head, in which you have to remove the eyepiece and flip the switch, which activates the light, and then you reattach the eyepiece. And here is Kiryu with those glowing eyes. Look at the neck. It is evident that the full range of movement was a priority, as they happen to be composed of a black rubber substance with only the bare necessity regarding protection being applied, allowing for Kiryu to engage in surface-to-surface and surface-to-air combat. And the rubber parts weren't half-assed, as all the pipework is intricately detailed in order for hardcore kaiju feely enthusiasts to Moving to the chest, Kiryu is armed with a huge pair of tits, as Japan in all their degenerate imagination designed it in order so that it could resemble their favorite waifu.
Japan is fucking dead.
And just like any good pair of bazungas, you remove the bra in order to see the real deal. And within the chest is the Absolute Zero cannon that was designed with the intent of annihilating Godzilla, as it can reduce any object down to its molecular structure, or in layman's terms,
everything freezes.
And the sculptors really outdid themselves once again, as the cannon is frighteningly screen accurate, with the spikes at the muzzle and the light at the center. And just like the eyes, by pressing the bottom chest here, the Absolute Zero cannon lights up in order to recreate when it's in effect. But unlike the rest of the Godzilla roster, Kiryu here happens to restrict his calorie intakes, as the belly doesn't stick out like your average American, but is in shape, further validifying the fact that Kiryu was heavily modeled after your anime waifu. Even the design below the belt supports the argument, as they are shaped based off the outline of a woman's underwear.
Japan is fucking dead.
We also can't forget those dies, as they are and they put fake characters to shame. There's also this plastic pick that is used to pry open the exact spot on the leg in order to unveil the hidden boosters within. Probably why the dies are so dick. When regarding Bigfoot over here, it's more or less an oversized footwear, a given since it is a suit that has the potential of stomping onto hostiles like how the legendary Goji conducts. I'd highlight the word potential, as Kiryu was not once seen conducting such move. Now, if you're familiar with the Big G, each iteration possesses their individual variant of dorsal plates, aiding in differentiating each Godzilla for kaiju enthusiasts. In doing so, when seeing Kiryu as being a necromantic experiment of the original Godzilla, Kiryu does possess the dorsal plates of the OG. But there is a catch, as the dorsal plates are covered in metal platings in which each fin is different from one another, resulting in disarray here. But due to the mechanical nature of the plates, they don't sting compared to those found in Kiryu's organic counterparts. So bye bye to self-inflicted wounds during times of hardship. And you can't talk about Mechagodzilla without discussing the enormous elongated tail. When regarding Kiryu's tails, it's basically akin to those seen in any other iteration of Godzilla, where it's long, it's composed of various parts, 17 to be exact, that allows Kiryu to pull off various moves, and has a spike at the end, which isn't used. But the difference is that rather than being a tail that is dragged on the ground, Kiryu has it floating above surface level, probably to get with the times. When regarding the Kaiju's accessory assortment, they were initially superb, with certain Kaijus going above and beyond what is seen in only premium Figma figures, but lately have committed jump king, with even the bare necessities such as the atomic breath being removed, alongside Bandai reusing the same sculpt numerous times. So I was afraid that the soul of Chogokin line, especially Kiryu, like the rest of his Monstars contemporaries, would come with almost no accessories whatsoever. But I have to say, Kiryu is pretty good. Firstly, time for extra firepower!
Oh, shit.
And here's Kiryu when he's indulging in his second amendment. Firstly, there are your cannons in which by extending the barrels, they act as additional dual laser cannons that inflict heavy damage to aircrafts and infantry, but does jack shit against heavyweight kaijus. But in case Kiryu is forced to go head to head with the heavyweight kaijus up close, there are these dual knives that can be inserted into the center hole, in which they act not only to slice and dice kaiju, but can electrify them, making Kiryu a formidable force at close range. And the best for last is Kiryu's jetpack, which not only allows the metal dragon to become Kate Winslet, Jack! I can fly! But also comes with two separate types of missiles. The first are your basic anti-tank missiles made for pinching Godzilla on impact, and then there are your extra large HIMARS designed for delivering maximum impact to Godzilla. And as a last resort, the jetpack can be fired as an immense projectile that, while doing minimum damage, acts to push Godzilla back for a slight second or two. But if this version is too big or shiny for certain eyes, there is a discount version. And seeing Kiryu Shinegawa Final Battle version is basically what happens when Kiryu activates his absolute zero cannon at close range and paying the cost for such victory, in which the right arm is literally ripped off, in which every individual wire and pipework are not only exposed, but intricately detailed as well, and a vast improvement over the rubber piece seen in the SH Monster Arts. But the highlight is the damaged titty beam, in which not only are the 2 out of 3 casings on the cannon ripped off, but the inner components are literally blasted off with individual wiring details exposed, leaving the absolute zero cannon inoperable and replaced down the line. There's also this miniature of the main protagonist Akane that can be placed on the shoulder in order to portray the ending of the film. Kiryu here also comes with a stand that is not only able to hold Kiryu, but also hold the various weaponry that he possesses. Perfect for people who want to place Kiryu in their glass case. As my first Soul of Chogokin kit, I was unsure what I would get, as it could range from a Gunpla to a Gunpla. But to my surprise, the Chogokin version of Kiryu is a tall lad, standing at 22 centimeters or 8.67 inches, towering over most kaijus and even equivalent to larger ones. Here's the Chogokin Kiryu next to Gunpla, Hiya Toys Kaijus, Star Wars Black Series, Mechs, and SH Monsters Kiryu. When regarding articulation, when it comes to kaijus and mechs, they range from pretty good, such as the Gunpla line, to downright pitiful, like most of the Monster Earth line. In doing so, let's see whether the Chogokin Kiryu is more mech or kaiju. Head movement, while limited, satisfies the minimum requirements. Neck movement is impressive with the various ball joints. Of course, jaw movement, shoulder movement.
Failure.
Great side-to-side arm movement. Elbow bend is decent hand movement. Stomach crouch is hardly existent. Really stiff leg movement. Knee movement is conducted through a ratchet joint, but the range is
just a bit of banter.
Movable knee armor, extremely stiff and limited feet movement. But you can't deny the fantastic tail movement that even surpasses current monster arts. So, the Soul of Chogokin Kiryu is another fantastic addition to the kaiju roster, as it retains the screen-accurate designs as depicted in the film, alongside the people involved imbuing their passion without cutting corners, as portrayed through the intricate mechanical details in addition to lack of any evident paint blotches whatsoever. And of course, the accessory roster is a marvel by itself, which aids in replicating the various forms depicted in the big screen. Not to mention the premium stand making Kiryu maybe a little too akin to an Eva. The only downside is the articulation, as certain joints fall apart and movement is stiff regarding certain places. But even with such drawbacks, it fails to detract from tarnishing the value this figure possesses. In doing so, I'm gonna give the Soul of Chogokin Kiryu a ranking of an A-.